I've found that most marathoners show up to the start line never having had sustained goal pace for longer than an hour. Their final long run was either too slow to test it, maybe they did a tune-up race and it was too short or not actually at marathon pace, and they couldn't simulate it at all. And then they find out at mile 15, 16, 17, maybe even 18 into a race that it's too late and there's nothing you can do at all. I'm Brant. I've coached marathoners from 2:09 to 6 hours, and this is the workout I use in almost every single build so I can tell athletes exactly how they're going to pace their marathon so we know exactly what they're going to do so they can chase the right goals and crush it on race day. In this video, I want to explain to you the one workout that tells you pretty much everything you need to know about your marathon readiness. It's one that I see almost no recreational and a lot of even top age group runners doing. And by the end of this video, I'm hoping you'll know exactly what it is, where to put it in your build, how to execute it, what the result of that workout actually means, so you can go into your race day informed, understanding how to pace, and go out there and crush it. So the two things that I most commonly find athletes use to measure their marathon readiness is their long run and their tune-up race. Most commonly, it's the 20 miler. I've talked about why I don't think this is appropriate. And also the tune-up race. My last video talked about why I don't think you actually need one of these. I think that both are measuring the wrong thing. Your long run, whether it's a 20 miler, whether it has some MP, very rarely does it have a long bout. Some plans call for 60 to 90 minutes slower than marathon pace. Some call for a little bit above or a progression run. Sure, that tests the durability and some of your aerobic pace, but it tells you almost nothing about whether your goal pace is actually sustainable for a full 26.2 miles. Your tune-up half marathon generally is run faster or all out. Most people get carried away. As I talked about in the last video, you actually lose a couple weeks of training, so I think it's more detrimental than it is positive. It shows potential, sure, but not readiness. And neither of these workouts or ideas put you in marathon pace long enough to generate any meaningful data about what's going to happen on race day. You're essentially showing up to the most important race of your training cycle, maybe even your year. Maybe it's a Boston qualifier, maybe you're trying to get a big PR at this race, and you're untested with effort that actually matters, so when you go into the race, you really have no clue. I've probably coached over 3,000 marathon builds at this point, and the single most common thread I've seen when reviewing people's previous training plans to the changes that we've made, they've had super disappointing races, they picked a time, and they had no proof that they could hit it, they paced for that early, they didn't do any sustained work at that pace that's longer than an hour, and then they go and 13, 14, 15, 16, maybe if they're lucky make it 18 miles, they blow up on race day and they try to find out why. I would argue if you haven't held your pace continuously for 90 to 100 minutes before race day, you actually don't know if your goal is achievable. So here's the workout I use to close that gap. It's super simple. 3 weeks out, maybe 4. It depends on the build, how you're doing, if you had any injury weeks, down weeks, how well you recover. If you're a newer runner, I would start with 4. If you're a more experienced runner, you can move it to 3. There's a couple keys here. You want to do it on tired legs. We're not tapering for this. This isn't a race. This is a training run. We need good data on tired legs because the marathon rewards your ability to run on tired legs. That's the workout. Simply 20-minute warm up, 90 to 100 minutes at marathon pace, 20-minute warm down. Now, the details matter immensely here. So let me be specific. We don't want to do this workout fresh, as I mentioned. No taper, no extra rest day, still full volume the day before, big workout midweek. You do this on tired legs in the end of a normal training week, because that's the closest simulation to what your body will face at mile 18, 19, 20 when everybody talks about bonking. If you execute this in your race day shoes, your race day kit, if the weather lines up for that, on terrain that mimics your race course when possible, with full on fueling strategy in place, the exact gels, the exact timing, the exact quantities you want to use on race day, this becomes a full dress rehearsal for your race. The reason why we look at 90 to 100 minutes specifically is that it represents around the tipping point for most athletes where glycogen management, fat oxidation, and mental durability all start to become factors to if you'll be successful on race day. 45 minutes at goal pace isn't really that hard. Like, that's just getting carried away on an easy run for most people, to be honest. If you think about it, like marathon pace sits upper end zone 2, some might say low zone 3, depending on the model you're looking at, but really it's not that hard of a pace. So that's why people doing marathon chunks of 30, 40, 50 minutes, 60 minutes isn't even really that hard. For most of you, you could go out tomorrow on an easy day and run marathon pace for 60 minutes, just getting carried away running with a faster friend. With all that said, the workout is only really half of it because anybody can do a workout. Knowing how to read the results is where I think the real value is. There's 2 results essentially you could get from this workout. Both of them immensely valuable. One tells you you're ready. The other tells you something you probably desperately need to know before race day. A pass on this workout looks like you complete the 90 to 100 minutes at goal effort, pace. Let's say I'd lead with effort, pace is secondary. And you finish thinking, you know what? If I had to today, I probably could have done another hour like that. Remember, you've got tired legs, so it doesn't matter what your finishing time is. Could I have done another hour on these tired legs today? Not that it would be easy or like I would want to, not that it's comfortable, but it's like I got more in the tank, I could do that. If you do this, your pace was controlled and consistent throughout, not forced, you fueled well, you felt like you were executing a plan rather than surviving a workout. That's a green light. We're probably pretty dialed in weather and environment concerns aside, that's a pacing schedule for you in your marathon. Whereas a fail looks like your pace maybe drops off towards the end, despite, your effort probably going up. You're forcing the run. You're choosing a number that you have no certainty of and going, I have to run this pace to show. This is why I said we lead with effort. And so if you finish this workout and you could not have gone 60 more minutes like that, that's a failure of the workout. You could argue it's a failure of preparation or planning. Sure, I would agree with those, but that's the workout actually doing its job for many of you. It just told you something critical that your long run and tune-up race never would have. I always tell my athletes, I'd rather at mile 10 of a workout 3 weeks before your marathon find out that this pace is not sustainable, it is not going to be your marathon pace, than at mile 13 of the actual race, and the second half becomes a survival exercise and your goal is completely gone. A fail in this workout is information. It's information that could save your race. Oftentimes we'll describe this, it's like, okay, well, if you fail this workout, and let's say it's the 3:20 pace was what you were trying for. I've seen athletes argue, yeah, but the race day adrenaline and all these things are going to come in. Okay, maybe, but if you want to be here and your training says you're here, the only way you're filling that gap is hope. And that is not a reliable strategy. I talk about believing in yourself and doing these things all the time with my athletes. But at the end of the day, we're a physiology-based sport, and physiology does not lie. If you can't hold this workout out and you get a fail on that, that means we get to readjust. And that's a blessing in disguise. If you pass, race day confidence is earned. If you fail, we need to adjust your goal while you still have time to make it count and save your race. Let me show you exactly what this looks like in practice with a couple athlete examples, because I've used this workout across every level of marathon performance. It's the same test that I used with Thomas Nobbs in his debut when he ran 2:19 in Philly. Elite athletes need readiness data just as much as recreational runners. You could argue more, but I would say it's just as much. And because the margin of error for them is likely zero, getting the pacing wrong in a 2:19 doesn't just mean a disappointing finish, maybe a DNF or stepping away from the marathon when that could be your event. When Nobbs did this first workout, he was probably running about 100, 110 miles a week in his first build. And he was a little scared of this workout. And I can tell you, I was scared of this workout when I first did it too. But when he did it, and we had similar conditions, we ran on a little bit of a hilly terrain because Philly rolls a little bit. And what the results showed is it informed how we paced on race day. And we got the 2:19 results, perfect. At every level of the sport, the question is the same. Can I hold this pace when it matters most? I think this workout is the closest thing, say for already racing it, but that's way too much recovery, to answering that question. And it works just as powerfully at the other end of the performance spectrum. I've got a couple examples. One, I got an athlete named Will down in Pittsburgh. We did this workout a couple weeks out on a hilly train, and it almost predicted exactly what he was going to do. He ran 4 hours and 1 minute. I can't remember the seconds, but I think it was 4:01. And so we paced it, we did that workout, and we set out that pacing plan. We adjusted a little bit for heat, I think, because it was a little bit warm in Pittsburgh this year, and he crushed it. If you want to look in the middle, like that's kind of the pulls, let's say, my wife Elena, who ran 2:46 in Chicago, did this exact workout. Boom, predicted, awesome. The cool thing about this workout is even if you have an early fall marathon like Berlin or even Chicago coming up and it's still warm, you heat adjust it, it works every time with the heat adjustment. The confidence that this workout's built, I argue, is more unshakable than any other workout or any tune-up race that you can think of, because it comes and gets as close as possible to the actual demands, not borrowed result from shorter distances or a tune-up race or a faster workout. I think that this workout doesn't just confirm readiness, it can actively change how you race. Let's put this all together, because many of you, you're going to be getting close for your Berlins, your Chicagos, your Torontos, hopefully CIMs a little bit later in your build, and you might want to know, how do I use this? What does it look like? How do we take my marathon build to the next level? The result on this, the workout, again, 20-minute warm-up, 90 to 100 minutes at marathon pace, 20-minute warm-down. The result of this workout is only valuable if you're willing to act on it. And I find a lot of runners aren't. And so this is why I see athletes make a really expensive mistake in their build. They do the workout, they get a fail result, and they go to the start line anyway with their race because that number is what they've held on to the whole build, and they race at their original goal pace they've been training for 16, 20, 12, whatever length their build is weeks, and they're not willing to let it go. And then usually miles 13 to 16 are the highest drop date miles in a race, because you go too fast, you cross that halfway, you check in with your effort, and you go, oh my God, I'm already feeling super, super hard, and I'm barely on pace, or I've already lost a little bit. There's no way I can bring it back. And then you try to speed it up for a mile or two, legs fall apart. Boom. The entire point of doing this workout 3 to 4 weeks out is you still have time to adjust the goal, time to adjust the pacing, time to maybe the next week do 60, 70 minutes at a slightly adjusted, more conservative pace if needed. Time to go to the start line with that realistic target that your fitness can actually support. And I'd rather you be disappointed in a revised goal, but finish that marathon doing really well, maybe taking a step in the right direction, still running a PR, and being able to come back and train for your next build, than blow up and wonder if I could do this, maybe quit marathoning, hate the marathon, don't know what's wrong, fire the coach, change the shoes, do everything, right? Use a workout that actually helps you. Every athlete that I've worked with that's failed this workout and honestly assessed it and changed their pace and adjusted accordingly with weather conditions, etc., has had a better race day than the athletes who ignored the result and chased the original goal anyway, every single time. So you're going to take anything away from this video, trust the workout, act on the result. A revised goal that supports your current fitness will always produce a better result than a fantasy hopium-filled goal that doesn't. Again, I'd rather know that the pace is wrong at mile 10 in a workout, on the side of the road, angry, texting me as your coach going, what the heck, this blew out, da-da-da-da, than to be watching your splits on race day at mile 13, mile 15, and see you implode and maybe even DNF. Do the test, trust the result. If you found this useful, please share it with someone. I think this is one of the best things we can do in marathoning to support race goals. So if you've got somebody you know who's getting ready for a marathon, who's maybe not sure about their goal or unsure if they can hit it, send this to them. See if they want to do that workout. So that way they can rely on evidence rather than hope to go out there and chase their marathon goals.